You ever wake up one morning and realize somebody else has been running your life for you? You ever look at your schedule, your paycheck, your opportunities, and your freedom and say, "Hold up, this can't be it. This can't be the life I was created for"? Listen to me. This message right here, this moment right now, this is about taking your life back. This is about the kind of freedom nobody can give you and nobody can take from you. The kind of freedom that doesn't come from a job title, a degree, or a position, but from a decision you make deep in your soul that says, "I will not live controlled. I will not live average. I will not let another human being determine how high I rise." You want real freedom? It starts with one simple habit: ownership. Waking up every day and telling yourself, "My life is my responsibility. My future is my responsibility. My family, my health, my dreams, my peace, mine." Too many of you keep asking, "How do I stay motivated? How do I stay consistent?" And the problem isn't that you don't know how. The problem is that your reason to grind isn't bigger than your reasons to quit. That's why you get distracted. That's why you settle. That's why every little temptation pulls you off track. Because the thing you're chasing isn't stronger than the things pulling you away. But when you wake up with a purpose that's tied to someone you love, something you believe in, a future you refuse to lose, suddenly distraction loses its power. You stop playing small because you realize small doesn't serve the people counting on you. You stop wasting time because time ain't something you get back. And you stop letting fear have a voice because your mission speaks louder. And don't get it twisted. This ain't about being deep. This ain't about reading 100 books, listening to 1,000 speeches, or talking like you're grinding. This is about applying one principle, one step, one truth with your whole heart. Because one thing applied consistently will take you farther than everything you know but do nothing with. You don't need to know more. You need to do more with what you already know. This is the message. Stop living like freedom is something you find. Freedom is something you build. And the way you build it is by owning your effort, owning your mindset, owning your habits, and owning your grind. You want to live life on your terms? You want to get up when you want, go where you want, do what you want? Then you better be willing to work for it harder than you've worked for anything else. Because nobody's going to hand it to you. Nobody's coming to save you. And the world will keep you average if you let it. Today is the day you rise up and reclaim the life that belongs to you. You keep waiting on a moment. You keep waiting on a break. You keep waiting on the universe to open some magical door for you. But listen to me. Freedom doesn't show up because you waited for it. Freedom shows up because you took ownership of your life before anybody believed you could. You don't get freedom because conditions were perfect. You get freedom because you stopped blaming conditions. You stopped blaming your past. You stopped blaming who didn't support you, who didn't show up for you, who didn't raise you right, who didn't give you the opportunities you thought you deserved. Freedom starts the moment you look yourself in the mirror and say, "If it's going to happen, it's on me." That's ownership. That's the beginning of every comeback story, every breakthrough, every transformation you see in the world. That you keep thinking freedom is something outside of you. Something a boss gives you, something money gives you, something success gives you. But the truth is, freedom is internal before it's external. There are people making millions who are slaves to fear, slaves to approval, slaves to routine, slaves to opinions, slaves to comfort. And there are people with nothing in their pockets, but everything in their spirit, because they decided no one was going to dictate their mindset, their work ethic, their standards. That's the freedom I'm talking about, the kind that starts inside you long before the world recognizes it. Ownership is when you stop negotiating with your excuses. Ownership is when you stop telling yourself stories about why you can't win. Ownership is when you wake up and decide that whether today is hard, whether people doubt you, whether life punches you in the mouth, you still show up like it's your job to become the best version of yourself. Because it is. Nobody can own that responsibility but you. And the moment you accept that, everything changes. Your attitude changes. Your discipline changes. Your confidence changes. Your outcomes start aligning with your grind instead of your feelings. Ownership takes you From victim to victor. Ownership flips the script and says, I'm not waiting for a miracle, I am the miracle. You want to know why you feel stuck? Because you keep waiting for somebody to notice you. You keep waiting for permission to start. You keep waiting for someone to validate your dream, to approve your plan, to clap for your effort. But the people you're waiting for are too busy fighting their own battles. And even if they showed up with applause, applause doesn't build your freedom. Your habits do. Your mindset does. Your decisions do. You keep thinking somebody owes you something, but the world doesn't owe you anything. And that's the best news ever, because if nobody owes you anything, then nobody can stop you from becoming everything. The moment you take ownership, you stop expecting shortcuts. You stop expecting easy. You stop expecting comfort. You start expecting work. You start expecting discipline. You start expecting resistance. And instead of running from it, you run toward it because you understand freedom is built with sweat, sacrifice, and consistency. Not luck, not timing, not handouts. Freedom is what happens when you start choosing responsibility over excuses every single day. People ask, how do I get ahead? You get ahead by taking ownership of the stuff other people run from. You get ahead by doing the work when nobody's watching. You get ahead by holding yourself accountable when it would be easier to quit. You get ahead by being honest about your flaws, your weaknesses, the areas where you drop the ball. And instead of hiding it, you fix it. You build the life you want by taking control of the life you have. Ownership isn't glamorous, but it's powerful. Ownership isn't loud, but it's unstoppable. Ownership is the foundation of every level of freedom you're chasing. Asterisk, you keep saying you're tired. You keep saying you're worn out. You keep saying life is heavy. The pressure is real. The obstacles keep stacking up, and you don't know how much more you can take. And I hear you, but listen to me clearly. Being tired is not a sign to stop. Being tired is a sign that you're finally in the fight. It means you're stretching beyond what's comfortable. It means you're pushing past the old version of yourself. It means you're operating at a level you weren't built for before, but you're building for now. Tired doesn't mean weak. Tired means working. Tired means you're in motion. Tired means you're still in the ring swinging while everybody else tapped out. You've been trained to think tired equals defeat, but that's a lie. Some of your greatest breakthroughs will happen in the moments where your body says no, but your spirit says keep going. When your legs are heavy, but your purpose is heavier. When you're drained, but you refuse to let that drain dictate your destiny. That's where growth is born. Not in the comfortable places, not in the relaxed moments. Growth comes from friction, pressure, fatigue, and struggle. The struggle is shaping you. The fatigue is preparing you. The heaviness is strengthening you. The weight you're carrying right now, it's supposed to feel heavy. It's supposed to test you. It's supposed to stretch you. Otherwise it wouldn't. Be building anything. You say you failed. Good. That means you're not living on the sidelines. You're not spectating through life. You're in the arena. You're in the place where champions are made. Nobody becomes great by avoiding failure. Nobody evolves by staying safe. You don't grow muscles by lifting air. And you don't grow character by coasting through life without falling. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the foundation of it. Every time you fall, you gain information. Every time you fall, you gain resilience. Every time you fall, you gain strength, clarity, direction. Those falls are building the version of you that can handle the life you've been praying for. You look at the greats and you see the highlight reels, success, victory, applause. What you don't see is the long list of losses, the heartbreak, the embarrassment, the rejection, the lonely nights, the moments where they questioned themselves. The difference between them and the people who never made it wasn't talent or luck. It was their refusal to stop. They kept getting up. They kept swinging. They kept showing up when nothing in their life looked like the dream. And that's what you must lock in. The power to continue when everything in you wants to quit. You've got more in you than you think. You've got a deeper well than you're drawing from. You've got strength you haven't even met yet. But you'll never meet that strength if you only operate at comfortable levels. You'll never find that power if you retreat every time life hits back. The fight reveals who you are. The fatigue reveals what you're made of. The struggle introduces you to the version of yourself that is unstoppable. You keep saying you're tired. That's fine. Just don't confuse tired with done. You're not done. You're not finished. You're not empty. You've just reached the edge of your old limits, and now life is asking you to stretch beyond them. Everybody wants the victory, but not everybody wants the fight. Everybody wants success, but not everybody wants the sacrifice. But you're different. You're showing up. You're standing in the ring. You got hit, but you didn't walk away. You're tired, but you're still moving. You failed, but you're still trying. That alone puts you in the top 1% of people who will ever pursue something bigger than themselves. That alone means you're on the right path. That alone means you're built for something greater than the life you've been settling for. You've got to understand something powerful. Greatness doesn't come from what you feel like doing. It comes from what you decide to do, even when every feeling in your body is telling you to sit down. Feelings are inconsistent. Feelings are unreliable. Feelings change with the weather. One day you feel motivated, the next day you feel empty. One morning you wake up ready to conquer the world, the next morning you can barely convince yourself to get out of bed. And this is where most people lose. They build their life on emotion instead of commitment. They move only when it's easy. They quit the moment discomfort shows up. They leave the gym when it burns. They walk away from their dreams when doubt whispers. They abandon their goals when pressure rises. But the ones who rise in life, the ones who transform their future, they don't operate on emotion. They operate on execution. You've got to silence that voice in your head that keeps negotiating with your potential. That voice that says, rest a little longer. You can do it tomorrow. You've done enough. No, that voice is the enemy of the life you're trying to build. You have to override it with discipline. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not exciting. Discipline is waking up when you don't want to, showing up when you're drained, putting in work when no one's watching, staying focused when distractions come knocking. Discipline doesn't give you a rush, it gives you results. And when those results come, they feel better than any moment of comfort you traded them for. You've got to learn how to stand up even when your legs are shaking. You've got to move forward even when your heart feels heavy. You've got to tell yourself, I don't feel like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because the people who win in life aren't the ones who always feel strong. They're the ones who act strong even when they feel weak. They aren't the ones who never get tired. They're the ones who take a breath, reset, and keep pressing. They aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who refuse to stay down. It's easy to move when you're inspired. It's easy to chase your dream when everything is going your way. But greatness is built on the days you don't want to do it. Those days matter more than any motivational moment you've ever had. You've got to shift from motivation to responsibility. You've got to make your dream your duty. You've got to say, this isn't optional for me. This isn't something I do when I feel like it. This is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I'm building. And when something becomes identity instead of intention, you don't need emotion to fuel it. Your identity takes over. Champions don't train because they feel like champions. They train because that's what champions do. Leaders don't show up only when they feel confident. They show up because leading is who they are. Winners don't commit only when it's convenient. They commit because quitting is not in their DNA. You've got to choose consistency over intensity. Anybody can go hard for a day. Anybody can grind for a week. But the ones who separate themselves are the ones who show up every single day, not with perfection, but with persistence. They may not move fast every day, but they move. They may not break records every day, but they stay in the race. And every day they stay in the race, they gain an inch. And inch by inch becomes feet. Feet become miles. Miles become momentum. Momentum becomes transformation. And transformation becomes destiny. You've got to stop letting temporary people hold permanent positions in your life. You've got to stop giving your time, your energy, your peace, and your focus to people who don't respect the weight of what you're carrying. Some of you are fighting battles that aren't even yours because you keep dragging people along who were never meant to go where you're going. You're trying to build a future, but you're tied to people who are comfortable living in the past. You're trying to rise, and they're gripping your ankles. You're trying to evolve, and they're trying to stay the same. And you keep wondering why you're tired, why you're drained, why every step feels heavier than it should. It's because you're carrying people who should have never been in your hands to begin with. You've got to understand this. Not everybody you love is meant to go with you. Not everybody you care about is qualified to walk the next chapter of your life. Some people were only supposed to be a lesson, not a lifetime. Some people were only supposed to be an experience, not an extension. But you keep turning temporary visitors into permanent residents. You keep feeding people who aren't helping you cook. You keep building tables for people who never bring anything to eat. You keep pouring into people who never pour back. And then you wonder why your spirit feels empty. You wonder why you're exhausted. You wonder why you're stuck. You're stuck because you keep entertaining takers while ignoring your purpose. You've got to protect your circle like it's sacred, because it is. Your circle determines your speed. Your circle determines your direction. And your circle determines your destiny. If you run with people who make excuses, you'll start making excuses. If you run with people who quit when it gets hard, you'll start quitting when it gets hard. If you run with people who play small, you'll start shrinking to fit in their comfort zone. But if you run with people who push, you'll start pushing. If you run with people who dream big, you'll start expanding. If you run with people who refuse to settle, you'll start elevating. You become like the people you're around, so you better choose wisely. Sometimes the problem isn't your effort, it's your environment. You can plant a seed in bad soil, and no matter how much potential is inside that seed, it will never grow the way it was designed to. And some of you have been blaming yourself for lack of progress, when the real issue is the environment you keep watering. You can't grow around people who don't want to grow. You can't focus around people who crave distraction. You can't transform around people who love remaining the same. You've got to place yourself in an environment where greatness is the standard, not the exception, where discipline is normal, where growth is expected, where elevation is the culture. You've got to stop feeling guilty for outgrowing people. Growth will cost you relationships, but it will never cost you the ones meant for your future. Elevation will make some people uncomfortable, but the right people will celebrate your rise instead of being threatened by it. Distance doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you love yourself enough to choose the life you were created for. You're not being rude, you're being responsible. You're not abandoning them, you're choosing alignment. You're not changing on them. You're changing for you. And the moment you stop apologizing for your growth is the moment you start stepping into your greatness. You've got to make a decision right now that you're done living as the version of yourself that settles. You're done being the person who almost tries, who almost commits, who almost becomes great. You've got to make up in your mind that from this moment forward, you're going all in. Not halfway, not when it's convenient, not when you feel inspired. All in, every single day. Because the life you want is not going to come to the person you've been pretending to be. It's only going to show up for the version of you who's willing to outwork, outlast, and outfight every excuse you've been hiding behind. You keep saying you want more, but wanting more doesn't change anything. Becoming more does. You've got to understand that success is not about talent. It's not about luck. It's not about connections. It's about consistency. It's about showing up when you don't feel like it. It's about grinding when your mind is telling you to quit. It's about choosing discipline over comfort. It's about getting up one more time when everything in your body is begging you to stay down. You've got to be the kind of person who doesn't just talk about change, you embody it. You breathe it, you walk it. You become living proof that transformation is possible. And not just when life is easy, but especially when life is beating you up. You've got to make a decision that excuses don't live here anymore. They don't get a seat at your table. They don't get a voice in your mind. They don't get power over your actions. Excuses have robbed you for too long. They've stolen opportunities. They've stolen relationships. They've stolen discipline. They've stolen growth. And every time you let an excuse win, you're handing over a piece of your future. You're giving away destiny one small compromise at a time, and deep down you know it. Deep down you feel the difference between the person you are and the person you know you could be. And that gap, that uncomfortable, frustrating gap, that's your potential waiting for you to finally commit. You've got to get serious about alignment, about consistency, about standards. Your standards must rise higher than your feelings. Your standards must rise higher than your fears. Your standards must rise higher than your past. Because greatness doesn't come to people with low standards. Greatness doesn't respond to people who negotiate with themselves every morning. Greatness answers to those who have made a decision that they will not sit on the sidelines of their own life anymore. They're stepping in the arena. They're taking the punches. They're embracing the struggle. Because they know that struggle is the pathway to strength. Pain is the pathway to purpose. Discipline is the pathway to destiny. You've got to commit to the version of you that is unstoppable. The version of you that refuses to go back to old habits. The version of you that doesn't shrink when life gets heavy. The version of you that has fire in their eyes, conviction in their steps, and purpose in their spirit. That version of you is waiting, watching, ready. But it can only come alive when you decide that enough is enough. No more almost. No more halfway. No more someday. You've got to choose to rise every day with intention. You've got to choose to show up even when your body is tired and your mind is weak. You've got to choose to live like you've got something to prove, not to the world, but to the version of you that knows you're capable of so much more.